Tears of the Kingdom is such a breathtaking game. It takes everything great from Breath of the Wild and builds upon it in fascinating ways, giving both old-school Zelda fans and modern ones an experience they will highly enjoy. Hey everyone, I'm that one guy for never. In my starter guide, I'm going to prepare you for all the new mechanics and get you ahead of the curve for your new adventure into Hyrule. Tears of the Kingdom is a direct sequel to the Breath of the Wild, taking place just a few years later. The story opens up with us almost immediately witnessing Ganondorf, the Demon King, being resurrected and unleashing his magical power called Gloom on Link in the entire kingdom of Hyrule. The aftermath of which is that we become separated from Zelda, Link loses his right arm, his stats are reset to base level, the Master Sword is almost completely destroyed, and every weapon in the entire kingdom becomes rusted and tarnished from the gloom. Yeah, it's all sorts of screwed up. We wake up high above on a sky island next to the Temple of Time, saved by a mysterious Zonai figure named Rauru. Rauru helps you regain a small measure of your strength as well as gifting you with some new Zonai abilities that'll come in handy in taking down the Demon King in this new gloom-infested world. If you've already played Breath of the Wild, a good measure of this is going to feel quite familiar. Veterans, I suggest you not skip ahead as I have new item locations and tips and tricks littered in these next sections. This action-adventure game still features open-world mechanics and to a good degree is still exploration-driven, although story is much more at the forefront in this new title. You'll see the return of many Breath of the Wild staples, the Paraglider, armor, weapon durability, climbing, a temperature gauge, Korok seeds, cooking, and horse taming, while others remain the same but with a new name. Sheikah Towers are now Skyview Towers. Sheikah Shrines are now replaced with Zonai Shrines. Here's some more details on all this. The Paraglider is a staple tool that you'll use all the time. Whether you're exploring, platforming, solving puzzles, the Paraglider is your best friend. After jumping or while falling, you can hit X to activate your Paraglider and B to put it away. It's a simple and intuitive tool. In this new game, you can even find special fabrics you can use to make new Paraglider designs. The armor in Tears of the Kingdom come in a wide variety of looks and aesthetics. These are permanent pieces of equipment that offer protection against enemies' attacks and sometimes provide powerful buffs and abilities. You can upgrade these armor pieces at the Great Fairies for rare upgrade materials. The first Great Fairy is located here near the Woodland Stables. I warn you, the steps to unlocking all the Great Fairies are rather tedious. It involves a long-winded side quest to bring a musical troupe to play for the fairy. This starts off simple enough, but you'll progressively have to increase the number of members in this troupe for the different fairies. I haven't even finished all the steps myself yet, but this starts with you becoming a reporter at the Lucky Clover Gazette, then traveling to the Woodland Stable and talking with two people who belong to a musical troupe. Through a series of events, this will lead you to a side quest where you'll have to find all of their missing members. Okay, back to the topic at hand, armor. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes armor has unique buffs or abilities, like this climbing gear set that increases climbing speed, or this snow quill set that increases your fortitude against cold weather. Speaking of cold weather, Link has a temperature gauge on the bottom right of your screen. This indicates how cold or hot the environment is. If the needle dips too far into either, Link will take damage at regular intervals. You'll quickly die from this. There's three primary tricks to dealing with extreme weather. The best solution is to find or purchase armor sets that give you resistance against that element. For the cold, you can actually find the archaic warm greaves very early for free at the top of the mountains of the Garden of Time. It's right here in this giant tree trunk. This is going to carry you through most of your early and mid game. Another solution is to craft cold-resistant food or elixirs. By combining food items with spicy peppers, you'll gain a cold resistance effect. The more peppers you use, the longer the duration. There's other substitutes for peppers, but that's going to be one of the easiest items you can find early in the game. The final option is less effective. For the cold, you can build a fire. For the heat, you can jump in some water. While this may save you in a pinch, this isn't a very viable option in most situations. Now, weapon durability, while a common feature in many games, is still a pretty new concept in Zelda games. While armor is a permanent piece of equipment, weapons on the other hand are temporary. I mean really temporary. Most weapons won't last for more than a fight or two. For tougher enemies, you might even have to use multiple weapons. This may seem annoying or even tedious at first glance, but this is actually part of the charm. This game does a really good job of providing you with plenty of weapons and upgrade materials so that you'll never feel completely naked. In fact, Tears does a lot better job of this than Breath of the Wild. I can't think of a single moment where I was desperately looking around for something to fight with because I ran out. Climbing is another core mechanic that's very similar to Assassin's Creed. Except in rare circumstances, there's practically nothing that you can't climb. If you see a distant mountain or landmark that catches your eye, go visit it and climb it. There's almost definitely some resource, cave, or puzzle there for you to discover. Just watch out for rain or wet surfaces, as you'll continuously slip down them as you climb. If it is raining, it's a good idea to find some covered shelter, build a fire, and rest. This will cause the storm to pass. If you're especially unlucky, you'll occasionally have lightning storms, which bring forward a whole new problem. All your metal gear will attract lightning. This is actually indicated by the electrical icon on any metal gear in your inventory. Be sure to unequip these items till the storm passes, or you're in for a world of hurt. Korok seeds are a collectible you should really keep an eye out for. You'll use these to expand your weapon, shield, and bow inventory space. You're gonna need it because it starts out very small. These collectibles are awarded by Koroks. These whimsical creatures love to hide and create puzzles. These puzzles widely vary. Sometimes you need to help a Korok reach a nearby friend. Sometimes you need to move a nearby rock into a specific spot to create a pattern. Sometimes it's as simple as finding a Korok who's hiding by picking up a random object. Like I said, these puzzles vary to such a high degree that it's not feasible for me to give you a full breakdown on this in this video. The main thing is to always keep your eyes open for something unusual. If you see a perfect ring of lily pads in a river, chances are you need to dive into that ring. If there's a random pinwheel on a cliff, chances are that if you touch that pinwheel, a Korok will reveal itself with a puzzle. Once you have some Korok seeds, you need to find Hestu. You'll first find him on the road to the Hebra Mountains. Afterwards, you'll make his home in the starting city, Lookout Landing. Just keep in mind, every time you upgrade your inventory, the next upgrade will cost even more Korok seeds. At the beginning of the game, upgrading your weapon slot should definitely be your priority. But as you progress further, you'll find yourself needing a few more shield and bow slots as well. Cooking is another core mechanic that you're going to want to get comfortable with. To cook, you'll need to find a cooking pot and have a lit fire underneath it. Cooking pots can be found all over the various towns in the game, as well as outside of stables. From there, enter your menu and click to hold any food material you want to try to cook with. Once you exit the menu, you can click A to drop it in the pot to start the cooking animation. Just like in Breath of the Wild, cooking can be downright OP. I like to think of cooking in 3 categories: healing, buffs, and elixirs. Healing is pretty simple. All edible items have a base healing level. You can test this by cooking a single item. For example, raw meat has a base 2-heart healing effect. If you cook with 2, you get 4 hearts. With 3, you get 6 hearts. This additive effect works the same when combining different ingredients as well. A Hylian mushroom heals for 1 heart, so when combined with 1 raw meat, creates a dish that heals for 3. As you gather ingredients, you'll notice some of the descriptions notate different effects, like temporarily increasing your attack power, causing you to glow, making you more stealthy, and a whole bunch of other effects. Ingredients that give you the same effect can be combined for an even stronger effect, increasing the duration as well as the potency of the buff. However, if you mix ingredients with different effects, they all cancel each other out and you'll get no buff at all. So again, don't mix different effects as you waste the ingredients. But you can combine different ingredients with the same effects to increase potency and duration. The last type of cooking is elixirs. To make an elixir, you'll need to combine bugs or critters with a monster part. You only need one monster part, and higher tier monster parts generally don't make a difference, except in rare circumstances. So use more common parts for cooking like the bokoblin horn. Just keep in mind, robot parts cannot be cooked with. In this example, I'll combine a bokoblin horn with a single sunset firefly. This will give me a 3-minute and 10-second tier 1 stealth boost. Just like with normal cooking, if I add a second sunset firefly, the duration will increase. By combining rarer ingredients, you can even boost your buffs and elixirs into a tier 2 or tier 3 effect, which makes it considerably more effective. One other thing to note, Tears of the Kingdom adds a new recipe menu which records your successful recipes. This is a really nice addition, as you can easily remake your best recipes or even improve upon them. Horse taming is back in Tears of the Kingdom and has even had some new mechanics added to it. Horses are a great way to get around the terrain quickly and can even be handy in combat. Something new, this game introduces a unique feature, with horses being able to tow player-made carriages. Taming a horse is pretty simple, either by crouching and slowly walking up to its side, or by paragliding from above and dropping onto its back. If you're sneaking up to the horse, you click A to mount it. The horse will then begin to try to buck you off. You'll need to soothe it by continuously clicking the L button. This process is going to rapidly deplete your stamina, but if your stamina gauge is large enough, you'll eventually tame the horse. If you get bucked off, the taming ends and you'll have to start all over again. Generally, the better the quality of horse, the more stamina it takes to tame. I mentioned before that you can use cooking to replenish your stamina. You'll also be able to permanently upgrade your stamina wheel as well. I'll cover more on that soon. Once you've tamed your horse, take it to any stable and register it for 20 rupees. Now that it's registered, you'll be able to take it out at any stable and even whistle using the D-pad down button to have it come to you. All horses start off pretty wild when first tamed and can be difficult to control. If you notice your horse is acting up or pulling away from the direction you're going, click L to soothe your horse. If you've timed this well, you'll notice a warm pink haze around your horse's head, indicating that you've increased your bond with it. The higher the bond, the more the horse listens and responds properly to your commands. Skyview towers are the new vantage point in Tears of the Kingdom. Once you make your way inside, you'll be launched up high into the air where your pad will scan the landscape, updating your map data. This should be one of your highest priorities when traveling into a new region. The towers serve as another function in this game though. You can use them to get to many nearby sky islands. There's lots of unique materials, treasures, shrines, and puzzles you can only find up in the sky islands. I'll cover more about them soon. Speaking of shrines, they're back in this latest game. Instead of Sheikah shrines, they're now Zonai shrines. You can find these nearly everywhere in the land of Hyrule, on the main map, high above in the Sky Islands, and even deep below underground. Shrines serve a very important function. They help teach you new mechanics as well as rewarding you with blessings of light. For every 4 blessings of light, you can take these to any goddess statue and exchange them for a heart container or stamina container to permanently increase your stats. If you see a shrine, you should always take the time to complete it, as this is one of the primary ways of making your character stronger. Alright, now that we've covered the old mechanics and the changes to them, let's talk about the new things. Firstly, Tears of the Kingdom is much more narrative driven. There's a very well fleshed out story with plenty of cutscenes, lore, and character stories. I know a lot of old school Zelda fans will be very happy to hear this. Another major change are bosses. This time around, we actually get proper bosses. There might be some fans of the blight bosses from Breath of the Wild, but I think a lot of us are happy to see Nintendo putting some effort into giving us some well thought out and proper Zelda bosses. Unfortunately, the dungeons are extremely similar to those from Breath of the Wild. No fully fleshed out themed dungeons this time around. But I am really happy that we are at least getting great bosses again. The biggest change is most definitely our 5 new powers. These are Ultrahand, Fuse, Ascend, Recall, and Autobuild. Ultrahand is a new version of Magnesis. You can pick up nearly any object and stick it to another object. This power is incredibly versatile and allows you to do some amazing things. You'll use this to solve puzzles, like combining wooden boards to make a land bridge. You can use this to make vehicles to travel both on land or in the air. Really, the sky's the limit with your imagination. I can't wait to see people post their cool creations. Your second ability is Fuse. As I mentioned earlier, thanks to the Demon King, his gloom has greatly damaged all the weapons in the Kingdom of Hyrule. We need some kind of workaround for that, and Fuse is our answer to that. Fuse allows you to combine nearly any object with your weapons, shields, and arrows. This system is surprisingly deep and complex, allowing you to create some truly mind-boggling creations. At first, you'll probably find yourself just fusing some rocks to a rusty sword, but the longer you play, the more you realize how far this can go. For weapons, you can combine them with ores, monster parts, and even other weapons to create incredibly powerful and diverse tools for any situation. An important element to this system is Fuse attack power. The higher the Fuse attack power, the more damage your weapon will deal, and the better the durability. The same is true with your shields, but with different effects. For example, you can combine a puff shroom with a shield that creates a smoke screen whenever an enemy hits it. Combine a rocket to your shield, and whenever you block, you'll go flying into the sky, making it much easier to travel or get the jump on an outpost of enemies. Another cool trick is to combine a minecart with your shield to create a skateboard that you can shield surf on. For those that are unfamiliar, you can shield surf by holding your shield out with ZL, then jumping with X, then hitting A while mid-air. If you did this successfully, you'll jump onto your shield and begin surfing downhill with it. Just be sure to avoid rocky terrain, as this is going to decrease your shield's durability super fast. For bows, this goes even further by allowing you to combine your arrows with nearly any material in your inventory. While holding ZR to string your bow, hold up on the D-pad and cycle through your materials by moving left or right with your right joystick. You can make some pretty incredible combinations with your arrows. Combine any element of choo-choo jelly to create corresponding elemental arrows. Key size can be used to make homing arrows. Wings can be used to make arrows that shoot further. Horns increase the power of your arrow. Mushrooms can create interesting debuffs like the Muddle Bud, which sends enemies into a berserker fury attacking friend and foe. Again, the sky's the limit. Play around with this and find some effective and fun combinations of your own. Your third power is called Ascend. Ascend lets you do just that, ascend vertically through most objects and come out on top of it. Basically, as long as an object isn't too far above you, you should be able to stand beneath it and activate this power to travel on top of it. This is incredibly useful for getting on top of mountains, traveling up buildings and towers, and for solving many puzzles in the game. My one gripe with this power is that Nintendo annoyingly limits its use in a fair amount of circumstances. There have been many times where this power doesn't work for the simple fact that the developers don't want to give you an easy button to solve a puzzle or let you get to a difficult area. But when it does work, it's a beautiful thing. Recall is your fourth power, and it's a pretty neat one. Recall allows you to rewind time on an object for a short duration. At first, you'll mainly use this to solve puzzles, reversing gears or windmills for platforming. You can even use this to travel back up to Sky Islands by holding on to a fallen ruin piece. However, eventually you'll start finding ways to even use it in combat. For example, you can send a rolling boulder back at the enemies. If an enemy throws a bomb at you, return to sender. I'm sure as the story continues to unfold, you'll find more and more uses of this ability. The last true ability is called Autobuild. Some users are going to find this sooner than others, but if you want me to spoil it for you, I will. Otherwise, this is your chance to skip ahead. Okay, here we go. You can find this power down deep in the depths at the Great Abandoned Central Mine, which is located here on the map. From the Nisoi light route, you'll need to head southwest past several more light routes to get there. This ability will save the history of all your Ultrahand builds. You can then instantly recreate them at the cost of Zoanite and for the building pieces. The building pieces can either be in your inventory or in a nearby area. This is very handy at the many Zonai and construction material sites. The last few slots are nothing special. You have the amiibo slot, which simply allows you to scan your amiibos for unlockables. The map is just an alternate way to bring up your map, and the camera is for taking pictures and selfies. You can take pictures of NPCs, enemies, weapons, bows, and shields to be added to your index as well if you want more information on them. In addition to your health and stamina bar, you have one new bar called Zonai Energy. This essentially functions as a rechargeable battery. Throughout your adventure, you're going to come across many various Zonai devices. Here are a few I have on me: the fan, glider, balloon, rocket, time bomb, portable pot, and flame emitter. Each of these do something different and often are meant to be combined with various objects or some of your custom builds from your Ultrahand ability. You can find these Zonai devices on many of the Sky Islands high above. There's often these vending machines that take Zonai charges as currency and gives you a variety of devices in exchange. Just keep in mind, each vending machine has a different assortment of Zonai devices. So if you're not getting what you want, you'll need to try another vending machine on a different island. While stamina is still pretty important, I argue that Zonai energy cells are even more important. As I'm sure by endgame, you won't be climbing mountains anymore, you'll instead be rocket propelling yourself across the map in slick style. So there is a way to increase your energy cells. You need to mine zoanite and exchange it with forged constructs for crystallized charges. The first construct you met up in the mines in the Garden of Time, but you'll meet even more at the large mining sites down in the depths. The ones down here are the ones you're really looking for, as they carry more crystallized shards, and even have large crystallized shards that you can exchange large zoanite for. Once you have 100 crystallized shards, return to this construct high above at a location called the Crystal Refinery. At the cost of those 100 crystallized shards, he'll convert them into one new energy cell. This is a permanent upgrade to your battery capacity. We've talked a lot about the surface in the Sky Islands, but there's a whole other world waiting for you deep below the surface that you can reach by descending down the many chasms you'll find throughout Hyrule. This new spooky area is called the Depths, and it's utterly massive, literally the size of the entire map of Hyrule. This is probably one of my favorite new features in the game. The Depths are largely pitch black and are home to much stronger variants of monsters. The ground and even the monsters are all heavily polluted with gloom. With just a single hit from an enemy, or if you stand in the gloom-infested ground for just a mere couple seconds, you'll permanently lose a heart container one by one until you recover it at special light sources called light roots. Light roots are your beacon of hope down in this treacherous bio. Often, if you look out into the distance, you can find these slightly amber glowing trees. It should be a high priority for you to travel to these and activate them as soon as possible. These will illuminate a large area around you, allowing you to find very precious resources that you'll rarely find anywhere else. You'll find large areas of zoanite ore and many other precious crystals. Around these twilight trees, you'll find rare mushrooms and bomb flowers that are amazing to use in combat. You'll even find pedestals that have treasures, often really great stuff like armor. While the enemies and their strongholds are certainly tough down here, with some careful planning and witty thinking, you can take them down without too much fuss. Just try not to engage in melee combat in the early game until you've obtained some gloom-resistant armor and potions. Otherwise, you're gonna find yourself dying in just a single hit at low hearts. And even if you do survive, you'll permanently lose a heart with each hit, making it harder and harder to take the monsters out. You'll also come across a new currency called POES. These blue flickering flame-like creatures often gather in large numbers all over the depths. You'll want to take the time to collect as many of these as you can on your trips down here. The reason is that once you've collected some POES, you can revisit Lookout Landing and speak to this strange statue below Pura's building. He'll have some very interesting dialogue for you, revealing that their job is to guide souls into the afterlife. He'll accept POES in exchange for rare armors, rare materials, and even for juicy tips about the depths. There's so much more going on with the depths, but I don't want to spoil any more than that. Just know that this is a pretty darn interesting place and that you're going to be visiting a lot. I'm sure many of you have wondered what these tears are that the game is named after. This is revealed to you after completing your first dungeon. Major spoilers here. If you want to skip ahead, no worries. Alright, here we go. These tiers were used by the original sages to greatly amplify their abilities. As you progress through the game and meet your current generation sages, you unlock more and more tiers that amplify their powers. With these new powers, they'll swear fealty to Link, giving him their support, not only in the final battle, but for the rest of your playthrough. Here's a look at the first one you'll most likely unlock, called the Vow of Tulin, the Wind Sage. With this activated, a shadowy avatar of Tulin will follow you around, providing cover fire with his bow in your battles. He also has a unique wind ability that you can use every few seconds. He creates a powerful horizontal gust of air that you can ride with your glider. There's many more sage abilities to come. In this last section, I just want to leave you with some really great tips and tricks that are going to make your early game a lot easier. First up is farming rupees. I'm sure it's on many of your minds, how do we get rich quickly in Tears of the Kingdom? There's a couple methods that I found to be pretty effective. One of the easiest things you can do is just scan your amiibos and then sell that gear at the shops. You'll find duplicates of these items throughout your playthrough, so don't worry, but they're great for a lot of rupees. Another good method is to seek out and then sell precious gems. There are many more cave systems in Tears of the Kingdom where you can find a good number of these gems. You can find yourself rolling in the rupees pretty quickly if you put your mind to it. There's also another decent method at Rito Village. Once you've completed their quest line, finishing the first dungeon, travel over here to the flight platform where you'll find a new minigame. The advanced course costs 20 rupees and rewards you with 300 for your first clear and 100 for every subsequent clear. Tip 2. Don't miss the archaic warm greaves. I mentioned this earlier, but these leggings are incredibly useful, providing you with a tier 1 cold resistance. This resistance is powerful enough to prevent you from taking damage from the cold for most of the early and even mid-game. You can find these in the Garden of Time near the 3rd shrine. Make your way to the top near this giant tree trunk. Inside, you'll find a chest with this armor piece. Number 3. Don't miss the climbing gear chest piece. Each piece of the climbing gear set provides you with a buff that increases your climbing speed, thereby lowering how much stamina you spend. You're going to be climbing a lot, so this is by far one of the best armors for utility. The chest piece can be found in this cave. Travel deeper in and you'll find it behind a waterfall. Make sure to grab it early on to make your playthrough a little easier. Number 4. Load up on puff shrooms and muddle buds. Deep below in the depths, you'll find a good number of puff shrooms and muddle buds surrounded by the larger twilight trees. Make sure to stock up heavily as these items are super OP in combat. If you throw or shoot a puff shroom at an enemy, it'll cause a giant smoke screen that disorients them, causing them to lose sight of you. This creates great opportunities for you to deal heavy damage with your slower swinging weapons. You can also utilize these to flee from combat if things are getting too hairy. The muddle buds are also your best friend. Shoot these in a crowd of enemies, or my preference is to shoot the toughest enemy in the group and watch them take each other out. They're literally doing your job for you. And yes, this even works on some of the toughest enemies like Talos. You can set up lots of hilarious situations like this. Number 5. Ice is still OP. Of all the elements you can use, ice is by far my favorite, and I think you'll agree after I explain. Once you freeze an enemy, your next attack does exponentially more damage. We're talking so much extra damage that you can easily kill monsters way above your weight class with ease. Shortly after completing your first Sage dungeon, you can begin to explore sections of Hyrule Castle that were left behind. These parts of the castle are riddled with black variants of monsters. This is one of the strongest variants you can find in the whole game. Just a single hit from most of these guys are going to kill you at low hearts. However, by using ice, you can easily explore the entirety of Hyrule Castle remains, finding some extremely good armor, weapons, and materials. There's a couple good ways to gain easy access to ice. While completing the Wind Sage dungeon, or while exploring the peaks of the Hebra Mountains, you'll come across giant icicles. You can fuse these to your weapons to flash freeze enemies. Sometimes you'll even come across ice wizrobes that drop an ice staff when defeated. Pro tip, shoot them with fire and you'll kill them in one attack. You can also fuse Ice Choo-Choo to your arrows. Whatever method you prefer, just always remember that ice is your best friend for those tougher encounters. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoy your new saga into Hyrule. It's one hell of a ride and a ton of fun to play. While this is the first time I've covered Zelda on my channel, I've been playing these games all the way back to the original. If you like what you've seen in this video, be sure to like and subscribe and set your notifications on, because I'm going to be rolling out with more Tears of the Kingdom content very soon. Until then, see you all next time.